What is going on, guys? Welcome back to our second showdown here on Sunday, wildcard weekend. We have the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. This game, I think, has the biggest spread that I've seen so far for any playoff game this season. It is a 10-point spread. We will get into that right away here. Let's just jump into the slate. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, throw me a like. It's greatly appreciated. It helps get this video out to as many people as possible, and hopefully you guys enjoy the free content that we have here at FSI. And if you want core plays, you can always jump in our premium Discord channel. So let's get into this one. The Saints are now fully healthy, so that's, I think, where when I just look at this slate from a broad perspective, it has so many dynamics because we have not seen the combination of Breeze, Kamara, and Thomas play together for so long. You know, it was like Thomas was back and Breeze was hurt. So it's just really tough to know what to expect here. And obviously we have some guys on the other side of the ball that, you know, have been really good fantasy wise as well lately. So the game script would definitely be in the favor of the Saints winning late. And if anybody like me knows, I've watched a lot of Saints games. Especially in the playoffs. Sean Payton just loves to use the clock, have these long, drawn out drives, 3rd and 1 rush. You know, they're going to take their shots, no doubt about it. But it is not the Sean Payton of old that, you know, like the hurry up offense and he's going to run and gun and do his crazy stuff, but he will use that clock up as much as possible. He would love nothing more than an 8-minute touchdown drive. So, I think that can actually limit some of their upside in the fourth quarter. Now, I saw them against the Vikings. You know, I think it was a little bit different because he was out for Zimmer a little bit when he was throwing the ball in the fourth quarter when they had a huge lead and getting Kamara all those TDs. So let's start on the New Orleans side. Kamara comes in at 11,200. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to fade him. You know, in the last sample that I think he had with Thomas, I think was week 14 against Philly. They were losing. I believe Taysom Hill played that week. Maybe it was Breeze was back by then. I don't remember. 7 catches on 10 targets, 44 yards. It had to be Breeze back because these other games, I think, was when he was actually struggling with Hill because Hill wasn't checking it down or throwing it to him as often. But he obviously had the massive game against the Vikings. I think median projection here is like 15 to 20. I don't know, really tough to fade. But you're going to feel that way with a lot of these guys, especially if you look at their game logs and just know how productive they've been. Then you go drop down 800 to Drew Brees, who I think honestly has like the least appeal to me. Obviously, he can easily go over 20 points. If this game is close late, he's still going to be throwing the ball. And quarterbacks in general just have a high cash floor. But, you know, you have Michael Thomas at 10,000, who I think is underpriced. I think he's priced that way because of him coming off of an injury, which normally I don't love to target that. But he's potentially was going to play like 2 of the last 3 games and then just sat out because, you know, he wasn't, you know, fully healthy. But so I think he's time and he's ready to play. And even in week 14, caught 8 balls on 8 targets, 84 yards. You know, in week 13, nine catches on 11 targets, 105 yards. And the fact that he doesn't have a touchdown this year, you know, I think that's going to be something that changes here in the playoffs. So I love Thomas for 10,000. If you're telling me to rank Kamara, Breeze, and Thomas, it is probably in that order. Actually, no, it's probably Kamara, Thomas, Breeze. I do get a little bit scared with Taysom Hill stealing these red zone touchdowns, which I guess could obviously limit somebody like Kamara. So if you want more correlation, you could go Breeze and Thomas. I do think that Latavius Murray will be involved. I think that's just kind of more of a playoff thing that he is going to be like that when they want to run the ball and get 3 yards or, you know, 2nd and goal at the 1. You know, Kamara's been a great goal line back this year too, but I do think we see a little bit more Latavius Murray than we've seen in the recent weeks. So it's going to be really tough to delineate who you want to pick there. And you could stack all three, but then you are completely fading Chicago, which I think there's a path to that with some great value on this slate that I'll talk about here in a little bit. Emmanuel Sanders is GPP only for me with the return of Michael Thomas. Jared Cook is viable. I just don't know that I find a build that I land in that 6.8K range. Taysom Hill at 6,000 is really interesting. If you look at his role since he left the quarterback position, he's at a touchdown in all three games. The last game he ran for 41 yards. 18 yards rushing here. He threw the ball a couple times. Oh, he didn't throw for a touchdown, but 11 points here at 6,000. I think you'd be okay with that. I don't know, have a little bit of upside in case Breeze does get hurt or something crazy like that. I think he's more of a good GPP play, but I definitely think he has pretty good touchdown equity here for the Saints. Saints D, I'm not considering. Latavius Murray. I think he's going to get more touches than he's seen recently, but I much prefer Will Lutz, who hasn't been that great this year compared to normal years. But again, the Saints at home. I don't know. I like Lutz here quite a bit. Then we get into some of the other receivers who I think that were viable and potentially playing earlier on when Thomas was injured, and now with kind of more of them back, I don't even know who's going to be the wide receiver 3. I'm not sure who they even have listed here as receiver 3. Is it Deontay Harris, which I think it'd be more Callaway. If Harris is actually wide receiver number 3, let's see if it says that he will be there for the playoff game. I don't know. He's viable then, I guess. I'm not really sure. He hasn't played since week 11. He's more of the punt return guy, but again, I think there's better value than someone like him. He could obviously do well, but there's a couple other guys I like. So let's get to the Chicago side. David Montgomery has like the worst matchup here, but he's been absolutely insane. Just look at this. Okay, since week 12, 28.3, 27.1, 27.5, 32.2, 20.1, 28.2. Even if they are losing, like they were against Green Bay, he caught 9 balls through the air. They are going to be without Mooney, okay, their number 2 receiver. So I can't argue anything against playing David Montgomery here. The actual rushing matchup against the Saints D is not a good one. Saints D are going to be out without one of their defensive ends, but he is more of a pass rusher than a run stopper. So again, this slate is loaded. You got Allen Robinson at 9,600. Obviously, has been Trubisky's favorite target, and Foles when he was in. Been an absolute stud this year. I assume he gets paired up with can't think of his name at the moment. The Saints' best DB. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I think it's he's their number 1 target, and they're going to get him the ball. Then you got Trubisky at 9,200. That feels like way too cheap. And I think I prefer Trubisky over Montgomery for the price difference. And the ball is going to be in his hands the entire game. So again, just really tough. You can't get 2 of them probably because you're probably playing at least 2 Saints studs. If you play all 3 Saints studs, you're fading all 3 of them unless you punt at captain. So again, I think Trubisky probably is my default play here, just as being the quarterback and being the cheapest. So Mooney being out is going to be significant, as we'll get to here next. It does put somebody like Jimmy Graham into play. They'll need more targets, but Anthony Miller will just automatically slot into the second receiver role. He has not been that great even when he's at elevated roles this year. As you can see, there's been other games where he's had elevated roles and he hasn't been that great. But, I think as a 10-point dog, there's a good chance they're losing and, late in the game, and they're just chucking like we saw the Washington football team do tonight. And yes, that would still benefit somebody like Montgomery, but this is somebody at 3,800 who's going to be on the field basically the entire game. So I like him a lot at 3,800. Santos, the kicker, at 3,200 is probably also one of the best values on the slate. You could see somebody like Cordero Patterson playing a little bit of wide receiver. He used to. He doesn't seem to catch. He had 21 catches this year, most of those out of the backfield. Maybe you see him slot in there a little bit. And then the super sleeper down here, the one that we all know for starting that little fight on the field, Javon Wims likely would be the number 3 receiver and get a chance to play here with Mooney out. So again, at 200, I think he's going to be on the field a decent amount, especially if they are down. So let's look at a couple builds and some potential ways to go about this slate. So I have no problem if I'm going to use Chicago, or if I'm going to use Trubisky, to plug him in the captain. He's the cheapest with probably still a close median range outcome. Now let's say you just fade Breeze and you go Kamara and Thomas. Okay, that actually leaves you with still some decent salary to work with here. And actually, you could fit in another stud here just with this build. So let's just fit in. Let's go Breeze. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Breeze or Montgomery, we're going to be close. Then if you were to plug in Wims, which I'm not saying he is a lock, but I think at wide receiver 3 at 200, he has some decent value. Okay, now you can get back up to somebody like Miller, somebody like Lutz or Santos. You could even upgrade your captain position. I don't know how much we can get an upgrade here and still fit in Santos. You would not be able to get to Miller. But if you want somebody cheaper than Kamara, maybe you didn't go Breeze. Maybe you fit in Montgomery. Maybe you went down to Allen Robinson. So it is definitely viable to get 4 studs here. If you want to get super crazy and put somebody like Lutz at captain, I don't really think it's the best thing to do with how many studs are here. But say you want to go Thomas, Kamara, Trubisky. You could go, we're gonna be a little bit short of getting another stud, because even if you go Miller, you can get back up to Breeze. You could run something like that too. But still, this line, the difference of doing this compared to what I did before is that you're playing a not a high upside captain, just at the expense at not playing Wims, or not super punting way down below. Because even if you needed to punt with like Patterson at 1,000, I think he's going to get some touches. He's going to have to play some, or even somebody like Callaway, who I think would be ahead of Harris here in the depth chart. But so there's a lot of ways to go. This one will be a interesting game to watch. I'm excited to watch all these games today. And if you have not checked out my other content here on Fantasy Sports Insight YouTube channel for these NFL showdowns, be sure to check those out. Also, if you have not checked out my bankroll video on how to play head-to-heads and increase your cash profits, make sure you check out that as well. That is in our channel. All right, see you later.